Good evening, I'm Ces Orenia Drilon.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Sean Yao.
The big stories tonight. Key agencies take more action on personalities supposedly involved in anomalous state contracts. That's by way of immigration lookout bulletins, more assets freeze, and tax evasion charges.
Meantime, the Senate will go on with its parallel probe into the flood control mess. That's via the powerful Blue Ribbon Committee, which will be led by Senator Erwin Tulfo for now.
And corruption's far more reaching consequences for the Philippines have also begun to unfold, with the economy projected to take a hit very soon.
Iniingatan rin natin na ang mga impormasyon, we're trying to prevent the commission from being weaponized by any individuals.
Hindi pa tayo tapos dito. Patuloy pa ang pag-audit natin.
This just in, outgoing Justice Secretary Boying Remulla has signed all immigration lookout bulletin orders against over 30 personalities linked to the flood control mess. Just who are these people whose travels will be closely watched now? The big story tonight from Mobile Journal, Amy Atienza.
Another busy day for the Independent Commission for Infrastructure. First, it has summoned Leyte Representative Martin Romualdez and resigned Congressman Zaldico. The ICI wants the two to explain allegations of budget insertions and control over DPWH projects during their term as House leaders. Former Speaker Romualdez and ex-Appropriations Chair Co are expected to appear before the fact-finding body on Tuesday, October 14 at 10 a.m. Romualdez's summons is in the form of an invitation, an act of courtesy since he is still a sitting congressman. In the case of Zaldico, a subpoena will be sent to him through the office of the party list he used to represent, Ako Bicol. Aside from Romualdez and Co., the ICI has also invited Budget Secretary Amina Pangandaman to a hearing. But since ICI has limited powers, it cannot compel officials and other personalities to show up. The panel has, however, the option of going to court to hold no-shows for indirect contempt.
The powers or the authority of the ICI is to issue subpoena. With regard to contempt powers, then we have to go to follow proper procedure, which is going to the courts and probably file a or petition for indirect contempt.
Another ICI action today, a request to the Department of Justice to put 33 individuals on the Immigration Lookout Bulletin. The ILBO includes Romualdez, incumbent Senators Chis Escudero, Jinggoy Estrada, and Joel Villanueva, and former Upper Chamber members Bong Revilla and Nancy Binay. Also being recommended for close watch during travels are 10 congressmen, including Roman Romulo, Arjo Atayde, and Marcy Teodoro, as well as former lawmakers, other state officials, and dismissed district engineers of the Public Works Department. These are familiar names. They have all been mentioned in hearings conducted by the Senate and House. Most have denied taking kickbacks from allegedly questionable projects. It is important to note that an immigration lookout bulletin order cannot prevent anyone from leaving the country. It only alerts authorities on the date, destination, and purpose of travel of those on the list. Only a court-issued preventive hold departure order can prevent an individual from traveling abroad.
The timely issuance of an ILBO or an immigration lookout bulletin order is of utmost necessity to enable the Commission to proceed without delay and to hold those liable accountable to the Filipino people. Right now, it doesn't mean that we will be asking them to, some of them have already appeared, but with regard to the others, the Commission will have to decide on that.
As to the ICI publicizing hearings for more transparency,
as I always said before, iniingatan rin natin na ang mga impormasyon o mga yung mga inaakusa ng mga aming mga resource persons, in a way, it has to be verified. Because we're trying to prevent something. We're trying to prevent the Commission from being weaponized by any individuals. So we have to be careful with that. Kailangan mag-ingat kami dahil hindi naman lahat ng sasabihin dyan tatanggapin na natin na katotohanan.
And as these developments come out of the ICI, its new special advisor and investigator gets ready to begin work. Former PNP Chief Rodolfo Azurin Jr. was spotted at the panel's office on October 8. On Thursday, October 9th, he will formally take his oath as replacement to his resigned predecessor, Baguio City Mayor Benji Magalong. Mobile journalist Timmy Atienza, we are One News.
Other government agencies are also moving in on key personalities being tagged in allegedly anomalous projects, starting with the so-called king and queen of contractors. Curly and Sara Diskaya have been slapped with multiple tax evasion complaints. The Bureau of Internal Revenue sued the Diskayas along with a corporate officer of St. Gerard Construction before the Department of Justice. The BIR said the couple's total tax liability amounts to 7.1 billion pesos, covering unpaid taxes from purchases of 9 luxury vehicles and documentary stamp taxes from their divestment in the company. Investigators also found that the husband and wife team failed to file income tax returns from 2018 to 2021. The BIR said this is just the first set of complaints, with more to come as the audit of the Diskayas businesses continues.
Nagulat tayo na ganito kalaki ang tax liabilities nito at hindi pa tayo tapos dito. Nagsisimula pa lang tayo, yung mga iba pang construction companies ng spouses Diskaya, patuloy pa ang pag-audit. Again, nandito pa lang yung individual liabilities nila and St. Gerard ang itong sinampa natin, at patuloy pa ang pag-audit natin sa mga iba't iba pang korporasyon na mention sa mga flood control projects.
Meanwhile, the Anti-Money Laundering Council has frozen over 4 billion pesos worth of assets linked to alleged corruption in government flood control projects. To date, the initial 4 freeze orders cover 1,620 bank accounts, 54 insurance policies, 163 vehicles, 40 properties, and 12 e-wallet accounts. This is expected to increase as the AMLAC secured a 5th freeze order just today from the Court of Appeals. This now includes assets of an entity whose license was allegedly used to implement ghost projects. AMLAC Executive Director Matthew David says they are also coordinating with their foreign counterparts to track offshore accounts and properties of those covered by the freeze orders. The AMLAC recently signed an agreement with the ICI to boost cooperation in tracking illicit financial activities.
Importante po na habulin pati mga foreign assets kasi po sa money laundering po, yung aming iniimbestigahan, talaga pong ang mga particularly ang possible na corrupt officials, nagda-diversify po rin yan parang investment yan. At yung iba naman, para tuluyang malaunder yung pera, bibili ng properties abroad. Mga bahay abroad, mag-open ng bank account abroad, personal properties abroad, among other, or investments abroad, among other foreign assets. Ito po yung diversification na ginagawa ng mga taong naglo-launder po ng pera.
And now over at the upper chamber, Senator Erwin Tulfo will now serve as acting chairman of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee after Senator Ping Lacson's resignation. The announcement came from Senate President Tito Soto. Although Tulfo was not among the 5 senators initially considered to take over the powerful investigating panel, Soto clarified that the rules automatically allow him to assume the role in an acting capacity. That's because Tulfo has been serving the BRC as vice chair. Tulfo, who is a first-term senator, will lead the panel until a permanent chairman is selected.
Yung majority na pag-usapan na we are not discounting any of the 5 na pwede naming makausap na maging chairman ng Blue Ribbon. In the meantime, Senator Erwin Tulfo, being the vice chairman, automatically becomes the chairman right now. So he is the acting chairman. So I called him and I made sure that he accepted it, and he did accept it.
Meanwhile, Senator Pia Cayetano said she is considering Soto's offer to become the next Blue Ribbon chair, although she has some reservations. That's after her name was mentioned among the possible successors to Lacson. Cayetano acknowledged that it is not an easy decision, but as a potential successor, she feels it is her responsibility to at least give it some serious thought.
I don't know if it's a formal offer. I just saw my name, as many of you have seen. So gustuhin ko man o hindi, it's my job to consider it if there is a need to chair the Committee on Blue Ribbon. Having said that, mabigat yung trabaho na yon. I already have 2 other committees, so I will use this time na walang session to pray about it and to think about it kung mahahandle ko siya.
Ma'am, pero currently 50-50 po ba? 60-40?
Wala, nasa sa Diyos na yun. Kahit naman sabihin kong 0.001% lang. Kasi kung gusto ko itong kunin, di kinuha ko na dapat to from before dahil ako naman yung Blue Ribbon Committee Chairman in the last Congress.
Despite the leadership transition, Soto assured that the Blue Ribbon's flood control hearings will continue, noting that it is the only panel with motu proprio powers. He also clarified that the Senate remains operational even during its break.
The Blue Ribbon is always alive. It's always alive. Now, it doesn't mean that because nasa break o nasa iba nasa out of town, it doesn't mean that the Senate is not working. The reason we have this break is so that the committee hearings continue. There will be continuous hearings of the different committees and even most especially the Committee on Finance, almost daily.
And still at the upper chamber, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano said he is willing to lead a collective resignation among senators, provided he is assured that all colleagues will follow suit. This is on the back of his very own proposal for a snap election after all top government officials resign. In a press conference, Cayetano said that while he has no objection to leading this initiative, he will only proceed if it is clear he is not the sole participant in what he calls is a political sacrifice.
Pangunahan ko. Payag ako mauna. No problem doon.
Will you do it now, sir?
No, mauna means lahat kami. Walang nagsasabing ikaw mag-isa. Kung mag-isa ako, hindi mangyayari 'yon. Ang sinasabi ko, mag-sacrifice tayo, hindi mag-suicide.
Now let's get more details on today's development at the Senate with Senator Erwin Tulfo. Good evening, Senator. Welcome to The Big Story.
Hi, Tess, Sean, and Polly. Good evening.
Senator, mukhang hot potato itong position that you are filling in acting capacity. It doesn't seem like anyone wants it. Is that a correct impression?
Yeah, because it's a very powerful committee, Chess, Sean. Chess, right? This is Chess?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
It is a powerful committee. Kaya nga, parang like a hot potato right now, yung position na yan.
Mm-hmm. Well, what are your plans now that you are holding you're in the hot seat as the chair, acting chair? Do you intend to call for hearings and summon? The last act of Senator Lacson was to summon former Speaker Martin Romualdez and Saldico. Will you pursue this?
Yes, of course. Definitely, it will not stop. So, marami pang dapat tignan na Mr. So, we have to do that. We have to invite people. Pero syempre, we know na may interparliamentary courtesy. Pero ganun pa man, we will invite. We will invite Romualdez, we will invite Saldico, and other personalities na mahagip ng radar namin ng investigation. That will be mababanggit ng mga contractors na nakausap nila ng mga lawmakers.
So having said that, Senator Erwin, I guess it's safe to assume na willing kayong tuluyin itong flood control hearings ng Blue Ribbon because some people are scared, no? Nung sinabi ni Tito Sen na wala mo ng hearing this week, suspended daw, baka wala na daw hearing at all. So you're going to, kumbaga, make a promise to continue.
I can guarantee you that the hearing will continue. Definitely. The hearing will continue.
Okay. And
do you have any date, a target date next week? Pwede na po bang magsimula?
Ang problema kasi, Mrs., lahat ng rooms namin ginagamit sa mga budget hearing right now. Kagaya po, Tatapos ko lang ng budget hearing sa DMW. Ako yung magiging sponsor. So, ang problems namin is like yung mga rooms ginagamit. Pero kung yung sinasabi mo sa plenary, nakatutok kasi ngayon ng mga iba't ibang mga senator sa kanilang mga committee that will be sponsoring for the 2026 budget. Tapos, may mga other hearings pa, mga pressing hearings. Kagaya ako, meron din akong Games and Amusement, meron ding Social Justice and Welfare. Yung isa doon na minamadali namin, yung pagbibigay ng ayuda kasi parang balita namin, patuloy yung pagbibigay ng mga ipinipili lang yung sinong bibigyan ng ayuda. Pag hindi ka kaibigan, hindi ka binoto, hindi mo binoto yung barangay na yun o chairman or mayor, hindi ka tatanggap ng ayuda. Panahon ngayon ng typhoon, di ba? At may mga earthquakes tayo. So, minamadali namin yan na paparusahan yung mga mamimili na magbibigay lang ng ayuda sa mga kaibigan nila o constituent nila. Isa pa yan. So, there's a lot of things that we have to consider. Hindi lang naman itong flood control ang problema ng ating bayan. Yung bayan, meron din sa food, di ba? Very expensive. Tapos dyan because of the inflation, yung rice na halos hindi na ma-afford, staple food natin yan. These are some of the problems that we also have to take into consideration. We also have to solve at the same time.
Well, after all, Senator, noon pinag-iisipan naman talaga na mag-wind down na ang mga hearings dahil yung ICI has already begun functioning and in fact has already recommended the filing of some cases, for instance, si Saldico. So, ano ang tingin ninyo dito? Will you be holding just a few more hearings before also winding up the investigation into the anomalous flood control projects?
Good, true. Kasi actually, magkukuhaan na what's going to happen here if we will continue this, parang mag-duplicate kami ng trabaho with the ICI. Ako, it's more on legislation, like how do we prevent this from happening in the future? Na yung mga net protected from the lawmakers, hindi sila pwede mag-insert doon. And then yung hindi makikialam ang mga lawmakers sa mga bidding, etc. Things like those, kailangan yun ang gawan natin ng batas. Because right now, pati yung sa pag-dispose, not pag-dispose, kundi pati yung paggamit ng pondo, nasa congressman, nasa senator, pati yung bidding, sila pa rin, pati implementation, dapat hindi na. We need to pass a law na pag binaba ng lawmaker yung budget, na in-identify niya, dapat diretso sa lawmaker, sa LGU. Tapos pangalawa, dapat wala ng mga unprogram na mga project, dapat lahat naka-program.
Connected to Ces's question, no? Tama si Ces na yun nga yung sistema, but after nawala yung Blue Ribbon hearing, dahil sarado yung mga ICI hearings, maraming nagsasabi yung purpose din ng Blue Ribbon hearings into the flood control anomalies is to give transparency into the process. Kasi gusto ng mga tao nang gigigil sila, gusto nila may napapanood sila, and parang doon na nakukuha yung satisfaction sa Blue Ribbon hearings.
Exactly. Ang problem nga kasi dyan, parang mag-duplicate ng functions. We're going to duplicate functions like investigation. And then you already have the ICI and then there's also the DOJ pa. So kami, we're planning na ngayon kung may lalabas pa ng mga pangalan, then we'll just give it to ICI, di ba? Kung may mga lalabas pa aside from yung mga nabanggit na sila Speaker Romualdez, Saldico, then yung mga senators, bibigyan na namin sa ICI. Yung kami, more on legislation. Pero kung may mga mababanggit pa na mga pangalan ng lawmakers na involved dyan sa mga flood control during the course of our investigation for in aid of legislation, then we'll just have to submit it to the DOJ, to ICI, para hindi magdoble-doble investigation.
Actually, Senator, in the previous hearings, parang malinaw naman na kung ano yung sistema ng corruption, yung collusion between the proponent, DPWH, pati na rin ng mga contractors. Pero ang tanong ng marami, sino ba talaga yung mastermind? So will congressmen be invited sa next hearing apart from Zaldico and Speaker Romualdez? Pati po si Orly Guteza, yung security aide ni ex-congressman Zaldico, would you invite him again to shed more light on this his alleged delivery sa bahay ni Cong Romualdez?
They're saying according to Chairman Lacson, may Senator Lacson, hindi na siya makita. I mean, he's not showing up. Hindi rin siya nagpakita sa DOJ, if I'm not mistaken. So, but I guess we will have to ask Senator Marcoleta to produce Gutesa to testify again para magkaroon ng credibility. Otherwise, kung hindi, baka isipin nga talaga natin lahat gawa-gawa niya lang kasi hindi na siya nagpakita. Mawawalan ng saysay yung kanyang testimony.
Senator, I understand you're on leave right now, no? Natapos nyo na yung budget hearings ninyo. So hindi kayo nakasama sa caucus kanina. But then the blue ribbon ended up with you dahil ikaw yung vice chairman. And since hot potato nga, gaya ng sinabi ni Sas, walang gustong humawak. So napadpad sa'yo. First, ready ka na ba na kung wala talagang gusto, na maging ikaw na talaga yung permanent chairman ng Blue Ribbon? And second, nakausap nyo po ba si former chairman Ping Lacson kung bakit talaga siya nag-resign?
No, I didn't ask him that, pero I mean, nakakahiya naman. He's my senior. I mean, tapos ano na siya. Decision niya yun, Sean. So we cannot. Nahihiya ako magtanong sa kanya. Pero yung the decision, I'm sure baka may makita pa si Senator Siguro kung wala na talaga. Wala talaga mapili, then why not?
Senator,
it is part of my responsibility.
Pero ang tanong, Senator, how will you handle if your fellow senators also express dissatisfaction with how the hearings are conducted, same as sa nangyari po kay Senator Ping Lacson? Are you ready to take the heat from your colleagues kung sakaling hindi nga nila magustuhan yung direksyon ng hearing ng Blue Ribbon Committee?
When Senator Lacson was still there, naririnig ko kung ano mga sentiments nila. Alam kong what is the problem. Kasi nga, bakit daw bukang limited lang sa senators, bakit daw walang congressman na tatawag. Siguro, if it will be my turn, I will ask everybody. I will ask these mga lawmakers na ito na. Kasi may mga nagsasabi, may insertions naman yan galing naman yan sa Congress. Meron din naman, bakit walang naimbitahan na congressman? True. So kung ako tatanungin mo, then we'll invite them. Pero masama, wala naman akong kinakatakot na naimbitahan sila. Kung kailangan imbitahan sila. Kasi yun ang tinatawag. And that's what the people are looking for right now. They're waiting na bakit hindi maimbitahan.
Yung mga nasa lookout bulletin, baka pwede nyo nang isamon, Senator.
Opo. I mean, kasama po yun. Kasi yun po yung tinatawag ng mga taong pa-assess. That's what they're saying. Bakit? How come? How come hindi exempted ba sila? Hindi sila mapatawag. Kaya imbitahan natin, sis. Pero let's not forget may interparliamentary courtesy. Kaya nga, siguro pag ako, babaguhin ko, I'll have to consult with the Senate leadership. Ano ba ito? Alisin na natin itong interparliamentary courtesy. Kasi ito yung sagabal Dahil because of this courtesy, respeto, hindi na iimbitahan. Like, do we have to start now? Do we have to stop this interparliamentary courtesy? Sabihin natin, invitation lang. Okay, we invite you. Hindi natin isabpina sila. Just an invitation. I will ask the Senate leadership. Do we agree on all lahat ng members ng Blue Ribbon? Will you agree na imbitahan natin sila? Itigilan natin itong observation ng interparliamentary courtesy or parliamentary courtesy. Para maimbitahan. This is what's preventing us from inviting them because of this courtesy na ito.
Right, but with the break, are you willing to work kahit na may break?
No choice. We have to do that. We have to do that para to satisfy. Ika nga, yung inaantay ng mga tao. The people are waiting. Yan ang trabaho natin. Pero yung sinasabi ko, Mrs., the problem is, meron tayong yung mga budget hearing na yung mga tao na nag-a-attend ng mga kanya-kanyang budget briefing, kami mga senators. So, yung timing siguro saan natin isisingit yung hearing na yan sa Blue Ribbon.
Senator, pag-usapan po natin itong proposal nyo for a 1-month tax relief, holiday bill. Ano pong layunin yan and how will it really help ordinary workers? Or is this more of a statement against corruption nga?
Kasi nga, people are angry. They keep on paying taxes. Tapos napunta lang sa wala. Tapos somebody made a whole lot of money. So why not? Actually, nag-suggestion sa akin yung mga kasambahay at saka driver namin na, sir, ano kaya kung hindi mo rin, pabiro lang na, sir, ano kaya kung hindi muna kami magbayad, exempted muna kami. And lagi ko naririnig niya, pati sa mga social media. So sabi ko, why not? So I talked to my lawyers and our lawyers, yung legislators namin sa legislation. Why not, sir? Pwede. Kahit 1 month lang, di ba? Para, well, galit yung mga tao na bayad sila ng bayad, napunta lang sa bulsa ng iilan. So, final namin.
But the government is in deficit nga.
Hindi.
Senator, deficit nga spending ang gobyerno eh.
I understand that. Yun na nga. Pero, yung sagot kasi ng ilan, yung pambabayad namin, ba't nilang kunin sa mga ninakaw nila sa flood control? That's what they're saying. Bakit hindi nilang kunin doon? Ang dami. Ang dami silang nanakaw. That's what they're saying.
And have you asked your colleagues sa Senate kung willing silang back-upan ka dito, Senator, sa bill na itong 1-month tax holiday? Siyempre, kung kaming tatanungin mo, okay kami doon. Pero yun nga, there's the economy.
Sa Senator Rafi, I'm sure will back me up. At saka ilang mga senators, yung mga pro-poor na senators will back me up. Yung katulad siguro ng Senator Risa Ontiveros, yung mga iba pang mga senators dyan na yung focus is like to alleviate yung poverty, etc.
Senator Cayetano, Alan Peter Cayetano has renewed his call pero dapat daw lahat kayo sumama sa pag-resign. Ano pong reaksyon nyo sa sinasabi niya?
Maganda pakinggan. I mean, it's very, very nice. Tayo as journalist, alam natin yung anong maganda sa optics or what, di ba? Pero, imposible. Sige, pag nag-resign ka, snap election, is resign, number 1, sino magpapatakbo? Dami ito problem. Number 2, snap elections. Sige, it will take about 2 years kasi you have to legislate a law. Di tapos na, 2028 na, di ba? Election na naman. So, useless, sayang din. So, parang hindi siya feasible at this point.
All right. Thank you for talking to us, Senator Erwin Tulfo, now on the hot seat as the acting chair of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee.
We're just going to take a very quick break, but still to come. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro addresses rumors that she is next in line as Justice Secretary. That and more when the big story returns. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the big story. Questions were raised at the palace today about the functions of the Independent Commission for Infrastructure with the appointment of new Ombudsman Boying Remulla. Among them is the possibility of abolishing the ICI and letting Remulla's office handle the flood control probe. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro's reply, the ICI has a different mandate.
Unang-una po, ang ombudsman po kasi hindi lamang po tutok ito sa flood control projects. Marami pong kaso na dapat natuunan din, pagtuunan ng pansin ang ombudsman. So, hindi po natin nakikitaan na ito ang dahilan upang gibain or wakasan ang trabaho po ng ICI dahil ang ICI po ay tutok sa maanumalyang flood control projects at mga infrastructure. Mas mapapabilis po ang magiging trabaho at pag-iimbestiga ng Ombudsman at ng DOJ kung may kompleto na pong dokumento na manggagaling sa ICI.
Castro also defended the appointment of Remulla. There's criticism that the Justice Secretary is only chosen to go after the administration's political rivals. The president's very own sister, Senator Amy Marcos, claimed Remulla will single out Vice President Sara Duterte.
Unang-una po, sinabi po natin na pagtatrabaho po bilang ombudsman, ito ay para sa buong bansa. Kung ano po ang dapat na imbestigahan, ay dapat pong imbestigahan. Hindi po dapat na may talikuran o kaya tulugan. Kung ano ang nararapat na malaman ng taong bayan, dapat po maimbestigahan ng ombudsman.
Castro herself also had to answer rumors she's being groomed to replace Remulla as Justice Secretary. Aside from being a Presidential Communications Office Undersecretary, Castro is also a lawyer.
Unang-una po, hindi po natin alam kung saan nagsimula yan. So, wala pong katotohanan yan.
Undersecretary Frederick Vida has been designated by Remulla as officer in charge of the Department of Justice. Castro said there is no shortlist yet on who would be the next chief of the department.
Now, meantime, the U.S. State Department has flagged corruption as a persistent challenge in both the public and private sectors in the Philippines. In its 2025 Investment Climate Report, the agency noted that the country's complex, slow, and sometimes corrupt judicial system inhibits a timely and fair resolution of commercial disputes. The report also singled out the Bureau of Customs and the judiciary as major sources of corruption, highlighting bribery, inconsistent regulations, and slow legal processes that continue to deter investors. The 2024 Transparency International Corruption Perceptions Index ranks the Philippines 114th out of 180 countries, a position it has maintained since 2019. RCBC Chief Economist Michael Ricafort warns that corruption is already affecting both financial markets and the broader economy.
Lalo na for the past month, no? Yung since September, yung nagpacket ng dollar against the peso. Matagal-tagal yan sa mga 57 eh. 56, even a little less than 57. So dahil sa political noises, medyo nag-expand yung mga akusasyon. Kaya siya nag-58 levels. Pero ngayon, stable na siya sa 58 levels. Medyo babagal yung spending, lalo na sa infrastructure ng pamahalaan. Medyo babagal yung ekonomiya. Pero ang kapalit niyan, magnanarrow yung budget deficit. Kasi mas malaki yung ginagastos kaysa kinikita ng pamahalaan.
At this point, we talk to a business strategist, Jonathan Ravela, Senior Advisor of Reyes, Tacandong and Company. Good evening to you and welcome to The Big Story, Jonas.
Good evening, ladies.
How are we feeling the impact of this corruption scandal, aside from, the weakening of the peso and, of course, the stock exchange has also gone down by about 3 to 5%?
Oh, well, basically, since the floodgate, from the State of the Nation address, the market has dropped by roughly 4%. Although the peso, despite a knee-jerk reaction to above 55, 35, the peso appears to be well contained. You have to remember, end of the year, we were at around 57.84. So very minimal adjustments. I think what we're really seeing right now is everything is on hold. Despite the fact that, the fundamentals are there in the sense that, we're a resilient economy because we're 70% domestic spending. So you have OFW, remittances, and BPOs that is helping the spending in the economy. But again, despite inflation has eventually performed better, it's already below the 2% of the central bank, we still need to look at investments, and we're already feeling this. So this holding pattern will continue unless we see anything positive out of this corruption issue. It's actually clouding the outlook itself.
And of course, as we know, we also saw gold breach 4,000. Crypto is now again on an upswing. People are putting their assets there. Jonas, I guess what I want to ask you is how much of this is really the floodgate scandal and how much of this is Trump's tariffs? Because there's also that.
Okay, so good question. If we talk about the equity markets, we ended the year in 2024 at 6,528. So that's roughly, if we look at the year-to-date losses, that would have been around, which currently at 60.98, that should be around 6.5%. So when the president made mention about the floodgate scandal, yung mahiya naman kayo, the stock market then was around 6,250. So from that time to today, that's roughly a 4%. And we can probably say 2.5% is really all driven by the tariff already. Yung tariff uncertainty is there. That has taken a backseat until such time the U.S. Supreme Court decides on the Trump tariffs, if it's valid enough to implement. No?
Well, on X, Jonas, you did ask Filipinos, are we already seeing and experiencing peak negative sentiment from the Floodgate scandal? What answers did you get, and can you interpret that for us?
Okay. Basically, it seems that a majority, no. So I have both on a Viber and the X, no. It seems, of course, a lot of people will probably say no, but in terms of sentiment for now, it seems that the market has bounced from a low from the lows of slightly below 6,000 and then we eventually saw the peso from a high of a weaker level of 58.50. We're now at 57.97. So what does this mean? It seems that in the near term, people are quite hopeful, no? So that's why we've probably seen the negative sentiment peaking. But it doesn't mean that it's finished. Now, the question is, what has happened? So the president created the ICI. There was a change of leadership. So people now are hopeful that hopefully we'll get to see something. No? But again, we've already seen that the Senate investigations has stopped. So what's next for it? No? So I think the key answer there is, for now, it's again looking for another reason to rise. So if people become disappointed with the ICI investigation, so I think we all, from the trillion peso march, the key word is TAG, T-A-G, no? That's transparency, accountability, and governance.
Yun naman, Jonas, no? The lack of transparency from the ICI, because the creation of the ICI is one thing, but now we don't know where the investigation is really headed to. The hearings are closed off from the public. How is that contributing to the fear and the sentiment now of the market?
So, well, basically, I guess people are just hopeful. No? So if we talk about the markets, they're actually optimistic because inflation was lower than expected from... I was looking at 1.9. It came out 1.7. I was hopeful that probably the BSP will cut rates tomorrow, but it seems that they're on the path of defending the peso because, of course, there are other upside risks to inflation.
Okay,
so that's keeping the market a bit positive, no?
But, you know, when we go to corruption perception indexes, and this can really affect like how foreign investors see us, Jonas. I mean, we're in the Southeast Asian region alone, we rank after Myanmar and Cambodia. Although, to be fair, Thailand is not far behind us, right? So there's so many questions there. How come Thailand can be perceived as more progressive? People want to put their money there, right? And how should we feel na... You know, we're just behind Myanmar, which has civil war right now, and Cambodia.
Okay, I think one of the things that what has happened, we've seen some demonstrations the last few days, and we've seen the trillion peso march. No, we saw the difference between EDSA and Luneta, diba? So unlike in other countries, they're a bit organized. They know what they want, diba? So tayo, what we need to put ourselves or put our heads together, what do we really want? If you ask me, definitely what we want is something, at least 5 things that we can get out of the government. So one of them, of course, they've already done the ICI, no? So, but really what we want is first public access of government officials. Their SALN should be public access. Whether you're in the military, judiciary, it should actually be, as long as you're a public official, then it has to be, you have public access. The second is really about passing the anti-dynasty law, no? So that can be done over time. I don't know how long Congress will do it. And then the one that's very simple, the ICI hearing should be live and transparent, no? It's just like watching C-SPAN in the US. And then
well, those are difficult asks. They take a while.
Of course.
I'd like to... yeah, go ahead. Finish your
Oh,
thought.
I think one of the things that the president could do is we don't. Of course, people will wait for the ICI, right? But there are other issues that are still pending, which they can work on, such as PDAF, Parmali, the DepEd, di ba? So they can work on these things so that there is a proof of concept of how we're trying to address these corruption issues. Right now, there's actually no framework. These are all these are strategies that probably good on optics, but what we want is the proof of concept.
Well, we'll see with the new ombudsman there, which took a while. But some observers are saying that the silver lining here is that the deficit will narrow because walang masyadong spending on infrastructure, although that could also be a negative in the sense because, the job creation, the pumping the economy with,
Okay.
with
I think
spending.
let's look at it from a framework. Remember that all of this started with in 2016 under the Build, Build, Build. So we were all hopeful that the Build, Build, Build will translate to three important sectors: agriculture, tourism, manufacturing, di ba? So until 2018, we were all hopeful, no? Till inflation came, then the pandemic. Now we find out that all of those potential growth rates above 6%, diba, is an ampaw growth. Kasi naging ano yan eh, naging infra, nawawala nga eh, diba?
Ghost growth.
That's why, well, we couldn't say it's ghost growth, but again, there's such thing in finance, there's such thing buy the rumor, sell the fact, diba? Binili natin yung rumor na gaganda yung economy natin. But suddenly, in the last 3 years, we find out all of these floodgate issues are all ghosts. Diba? So, hindi pumasok yung manufacturing. Yung tourism mo, sure, nandyan, pero hindi bumalik yung maraming turista. Diba? So, that infrastructure, again, there's that question. So, right now, what we can do is to spend whatever is left or what we can to ensure that this infrastructure materializes. Hindi tayo dapat mag-hold back ng spending. Because if we hold back, then who's gonna invest in your country? Kanina, you were asking about Thailand. Thailand continues, despite all of their issues, their tourism is well entrenched. Diba?
Actually, nabanggit na lang din ni Ces no, yung mga SALN. I checked your Viber group earlier because full disclosure, I'm a part of it. So I read, the thoughts of your members there. And they're saying, and I saw someone post an article about the new ombudsman saying na yung problema with releasing the SALN is nagbabangga siya sa bago nating data privacy law.
Tsaka baka daw makidnap, etc. I mean, he already said there will be limitations. This early, yung unang-una niyang press con. Medyo
nakakababa ng expectation. Anticlimactic.
I think this is something that we can demand from our government officials, di ba? We have to remember that if you want to be a government official, then you have to take some risks with it, which is eventually part of the trust game, di ba? If you want to be a government official, then allow your SALN to be public, di ba? Ikaw na mag-volunteer.
Tama. Exactly. Tapos walang gustong mag-head ng Blue Ribbon. Ba't ganon? I mean, why? Not one senator, di ba? Parang, I have to think about it.
Pagdadasalan muna.
Oo. Doesn't that say something about our leaders? Takot sa responsibility, takot sa accountability. I don't know.
And that's really a challenge. Kasi right now we're trying to figure out what would be the iteration that will come out of all of this. Again, it's easy if this was like a normal kitchen. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. But this is government. Government has to continue to work 24/7, di ba? So we can't say that we will stop spending, slow down spending para gumanda yung economic numbers natin on the deficit. But, our economy needs to grow. Our people needs those services. So kailangan we have to ensure that we restore trust immediately, di ba? Well, whether we talk about trying to elect people with good moral character and right conduct, then so be it. Kaso again, it's very difficult in a world that is full of sin.
We
Diba?
need a more proactive citizenry, a citizenry that can really demand, put our elected officials
I think the problem
and
says
hold them to account.
No, I think ang problem natin, galit tayong lahat. 'Di ba? When you have rage, 'di ba? The sudden reaction of all of us wants to do something drastic. 'Di ba? Kaya nga sinasabi dapat if you are fighting with your spouse, you shouldn't sleep on it. You should try to solve the problem. But you have to remain calm. Otherwise, the outcome could be difficult. So we need to come up with rational expectations so that this is what we tell government. This is what we want. Di ba?
Well, Jonas, the government is also exploring blockchain technology to promote transparency. Is that a step in the right direction? What are your thoughts?
Well, that's a good idea because whoever's going to make those insertions, you will find out immediately through the blockchain. Di ba? So, again, there is immediate verification. We don't have to call them into the Senate or to the Congress because whoever access those files or change those files, that is already verifiable. So that is actually a step in the right direction. The question is, how fast are we able to implement this? Especially with, we've been hearing a lot of talks about some people who want to reform their government agencies. And of course, you use technology, di ba? And what happens? Some people will put strawberry jam peanut butter on the computer wires. What happened? Di ba?
Are you talking about the Bureau of Customs?
Yes. Di ba? So, maraming ways, di ba? Even these corrupt officials or people who are corrupt, they also find ways to, try to stay ahead. So we need to also up our ante if we really want to have a transparent accountability and, of course, we want governance.
One thing that seems to be missing is like the business community should also have a louder voice, I think. Like, remember how businessmen would rally or use their voice, influence.
Yes, I think
change
recently
things. Parang wala masyado ngayon. Medyo tahimik sila.
Well, I think for some, I would probably say for those that are espousing the blockchain, no? My president at Dito CME was one of those organizers pushing for this type of issues. So I guess we are seeing much work on these low-hanging fruits, but I guess in trying to come up with what's the next best solution, I guess because there's so many things to do So marami pang nagka-craft, how are we going to do it? It's just that with all of these rallies, and this is something very important to not just you and me, but for your watchers, and your viewers and your listeners, no? Because there's so many rallies, you don't know which one you're attending.
Yeah.
Diba?
Parang music festival, apat yung stage nga, no? But quick last question, Jonas. I know you are so in touch with the business communities, the different chambers. Ano yung mga top concerns nila, no? Nang lumabas tong flood control mess, when we found out the gravity and gaano kalalim ito and gaano ka-systemic, what are the top concerns that you hear?
Well, basically, one of the things that came into mind, of course, they want those three things, the tag, no? Yung transparency, accountability, and governance. Now, perpetrating strategies to do this, they started thinking about it. But what they were worried about is the fact that if the economy holds, how are we going to do it? Diba? So that's why one of the things I mentioned earlier was to regain government's trust. And it seems that the government responded with a few things like with the ICI. And then one of the things that really didn't take out of the news was there was a meeting with LEDAC. They came up with what were the priority bills. So, and that worked with the private sector. So they eventually tried to digest which are the more important bills that are needed so that we can go back to the trusting game of what infrastructure is needed and then what we can monitor as the private sector. So pag natapos tong project na to, merong private counterpart who will verify, oh, this thing is working. So that can be a starting step that businesses are looking at. And one of them is really having the blockchain for this document so that it's easy to look into. So these are small steps, but hopefully the keyword really is to regain the trust.
All right, well, blockchain nga pero hindi naman digitize ang gobyerno. So
Kaya nga, that's why it's really we can only do one act of random kindness every day. Yun ang pwedeng hindi tayo pwedeng sabay-sabay because that is where the problem is. If we do it all at the same time, we won't be if there are very few people monitoring, then meron diyang makakawala. That's why it has to be targeted spending.
We celebrate the small wins.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, we thank you for joining us. That was economist Jonathan Ravelas. And moving on, the Congressional Subcommittee on Budget Amendments has acted on unprogrammed appropriations under the 2026 national budget. These funds were the subject of so much controversy in the lower house. In its second meeting, Appropriations Chair Mika Suansing said they have all agreed to remove infrastructure spending under the so-called SAGIP, or Strengthening Assistance for Government Infrastructure and Social Programs. In effect, the 80.6 billion peso originally allotted to SAGIP will now be allotted to social programs under the Departments of Agriculture and Social Welfare and Development, but with a budget slashed to 45 billion pesos. However, there will still be infrastructure projects under the line item Foreign Assisted Projects, which they apportioned at 97, or they appropriated at 97.4 billion pesos. The subcommittee has also agreed to remove 6.7 billion pesos allotted to health emergency allowances.
Is we would really have to retain the unprogrammed appropriations, the infrastructure projects under unprogrammed appropriations support to foreign assisted projects, because we cannot renege on our commitments to our multilateral and bilateral partners. But with regard to the other category, yung strengthening assistance for foreign infrastructure and social programs, both the DBM and the Committee on Appropriations agree. Hindi na po authorized na mag-release ng infrastructure projects under SAGIP.
And before we go, a viral social media post has put a vlogger in hot water. Our big picture tonight is a certain Mike Romero on Facebook, recently arrested in Pagadian City. That's after posting a photo of President Bongbong Marcos overlaid with a red arrow pointed at his head. The post was captioned with the word headshot. Marcos was in quake-struck Bogo City at the time. The NBI Cybercrime Division confirmed that Romero was arrested on September 30 and charged with inciting to sedition and violating the Cybercrime Prevention Act. Romero, however, says the post was a mere wordplay and denied any intent to threaten the president. Authorities located his residence after a 2-day operation where he admitted to owning the account and was promptly taken into custody. Romero has since apologized, saying his post was simply misunderstood.
The lesson there is bawal gumawa ng meme pagka medyo upset ka about something. Kasi baka ba.
Galing ng NBI, no?
2 days kayo hinanap for a meme.
Yeah, they were able to track him right away. So you have to be careful na rin with your digital footprint, what you do.
Cyber hygiene, tawag ni Colonel Padilla.
Okay, and that's it for the big story this midweek. Thank you so much for watching.
We're back here tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. See you then.
Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time. Have a good night.